Right, pass. Let's go for it.
Okay, so welcome again, everybody, to what is this, the 10th, 11th edition of Friday Night Live? It's something like that. Is it either of you two been counting?
Lost count months ago.
It's a lifetime of Friday Night Live. It's a lifetime.
So we're back again tonight with TJ Manastersky. TJ came on with us on Wednesday night and did a coaching webinar where we spoke for about an hour about playing without the puck, which was very informative. If any of you missed it, it's up on is it up on the YouTube channel yet, Martin?
Yeah, it was up that night.
Was it? Okay, so it's up on the YouTube channel, guys. If any of you missed it and want to tune in. Tonight, TJ's back. Tonight, he's going to talk a little bit about NCAA college hockey, as well as a little bit about himself. We got to learn a little bit about TJ on Wednesday night, but obviously the Friday Night Lives are a little bit more informal. And the good thing for all you kids out there, we are now officially 17 sleeps away until rinks are allowed to open again. How does that feel? Don't all cheer at once, kids.
I guess the adults that are happy.
17 more sleeps and the rinks are allowed to open again. That's good news. We're on the countdown. Can't come quick enough. So tonight, like I say, we've got TJ here. TJ, it's great to have you join us again for the second night. Why don't you start off with telling everybody, like I say, we got to know a little bit about you on Wednesday. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got into hockey, how you got into coaching, where your career's taken you, little bits and pieces like that, and then we can start talking about NCAA college hockey after that.
Yeah, sure, Stephen. Thank you. And I guess it's nice hearing the back and forth banter before, and you can see that stereotypes come sometimes from maybe for a reason. And I'm glad to know that everything I think, a little IPA and some wine, it's good. So it's only 3 o'clock here, so I'll be joining you guys in a few hours. But no, thank you for having me back again, and had a great time Wednesday. This is really exciting to be back and speaking to some of the younger players. And I know how difficult this year has been for everybody, especially young people. And good for you for being here today. I appreciate it. And hopefully you can learn something and be energized, because 17 sleeps, you could be back on the ice. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I grew up playing hockey in Toronto, and from a hockey family. My grandfather played a little bit in the NHL with Montreal, and all my uncles and my dad played, and so I grew up playing hockey. It's just kind of what we do growing up in Toronto. For sure, it just seems to be what happens, and I loved it. And I ended up coming to the United States to play college hockey and go to school. And then I played a little bit of minor professional hockey when that was over, and then I got right into coaching in the United States, and I haven't left the States since, really. I married an American girl, and now I have 2 American sons, and I've been coaching my entire adult life. So now it's been, I think 14 years in college hockey. And I can say that I've somehow made it to 38 years old, and I have not yet worked a day in my life. So I'm doing a good job. So that's a bit about who I am and where I came from. But I think what I do, like, I think of coaches as fire starters, because in each of you guys or girls, I don't know if we have any girl hockey players on here, but you young people have embers burning inside of you, and our job as coaches is to strike a match and ignite it so that we can start a fire and bring out the best in you as fast as possible. And we want a success, in my opinion, at the younger ages of hockey, is that everybody who plays hockey this year plays hockey again next year. That's success. And we want as many of you as possible to stay in the game for the rest of your life. Like, hockey is a game for your life. And even if you stop playing, you can coach, you can manage, you can officiate, you can be involved in this wonderful game in so many ways. And right now, it should be fun. That's the reason you play, right? To have a good time with your friends, and to compete and to play, and enjoy the physicality, enjoy the goals, enjoy all of the stuff that comes with the game. So uh, that's how I feel, Stephen. I hope that's what you're looking for.
No, that's great. That's a great intro. One question I wanted to sort of to throw at you was what made you get involved in coaching at such a young age? Because you were saying we must have been about what, 24?
Yeah, right about 23, 24. So I always knew I wanted to coach. My dad was a coach in the university system in Toronto. So I grew up in the dressing room, York University in Toronto, and hanging around those players and in the coach's office. So I just grew up in that, and I didn't probably realize it at the time at 10 years old, but looking back on it, it's clear to me that that's where the idea of coaching was, came from for me. So as I got older, I always knew I wanted to coach, and I got to a point in my hockey career where I knew, hey, I could keep playing, I could keep grinding this out and stretching it, but I know I want to coach, and I know that it's a competitive business. And sometimes, well, most of the time, especially in North America anyways, if you want to be a hockey coach or coach of any sport, the first bunch of years you're living in poverty. Like, you're not making much, if any, money. And I knew, okay, I wanted to get involved right away, put in my time early, and maybe by the time I'm 30 years old, I can support myself and a family as a coach. So that was my decision to make the switch to coaching at a young age. And the first team I coached, I guess, as a professional coach, was in college, and I was the same age as some of the seniors, the fourth year players on the team. So it was an interesting dynamic at that point, but it paid off, because at 28 years old, I was named the head coach at Curry College, and I was the youngest head coach in the NCAA at that time. But now I'm 38 years old, or not quite, almost. I'm still 37, but I'm not the youngest, that's for sure.
So tell us a little bit about Curry College, how the job came about for you. Tell us a little bit about the structure of the college and what it takes to get there, what it takes to get a spot on the hockey team there.
Yeah, sure. So Curry College is in a town called Milton, Massachusetts, which is just 7 miles, so maybe 12 kilometers outside of downtown Boston. And the city of Boston is amazing. And I had never been to Boston prior to taking this job, with the exception of one weekend, which was a bachelor party. So it probably wasn't the best representation of what everything the city has to offer. But it's an amazing city. It's the oldest city in America. It has the most history. And it wasn't until, and you guys will laugh because you have castles, but when buildings that's 200 years old, like, we're like, the history is so great in Boston. And then I went to Europe for the first time, like, oh, 2,000 years old. This is old. But it's a historic city in this country. It's where America started, the birthplace of America, and a lot of history, and it's beautiful, and it's right on the ocean, and it's just a beautiful part of the world to live. So in terms of life experience, it's unbelievable, and it has the most colleges and universities in an area than anywhere else in the world. So it's a young professional city. There's university students everywhere, and then they graduate, and there's opportunity here, so they stay and they work, and it's a very vibrant, exciting place to be. I do think it would be important at some point here. I do have some information that I would like to share, just in the big picture, to give everybody a sense of, okay, here's NCAA, United States college hockey. What exactly is it, and how do we get there? And some really important pieces. And I don't want to get caught up into all the minor details, but there's some things to think about and be aware of, so that if down the road a little bit you're serious and you want to, at least you have an idea of the questions you need to ask, or the things that you have to find out. So, Stephen, would now be a good time for me to share my screen, or should I wait a little bit?
Feel free. No, the floor's yours. This is do it whatever way you want to do it.
All right. Okay. So I prepared this to just talk about the path to college hockey. And the one thing I can tell you is there's no one way. Every player on my team got to our team with a different path. And our team is unique in the sense that we have 30% of our roster are European players. So maybe in 10 years we can have a Scottish player. We don't have that flag represented yet, but we have from players from 10 different countries over the last 6 years, basically. So we have a unique roster that way and a unique team culture. The first thing to understand about the NCAA or college hockey in the United States is the levels and how it works, because it's a little bit strange. D1 just means Division 1. That is Division 1. That's the top of the pyramid. This is the highest level of college hockey. These teams are playing in the Frozen Four. In fact, which is the Final Four teams. They call it the Frozen Four for marketing. But the national championship game actually takes place tomorrow. And the University of Massachusetts is playing, which is from Massachusetts, where we are, where I am, versus St. Cloud State, which is in Minnesota. And that's the highest level. And you're seeing, I believe, 30% of the National Hockey League is now coming from U.S. college hockey, if not more. And that level is becoming a true stepping stone to the NHL. The second level of college hockey is Division 3. You might think it'd be Division 2, but it's not, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Division 3 is the second highest level of college hockey. And one of the things that makes it very unique about hockey is just the number of schools that have hockey. There are only 61 Division 1 hockey teams. To put it in reference, there's probably 400 soccer teams or football. I guess that's what you would say, football teams. So there's not that many opportunities. And if you think about the numbers, right? Think about if every team graduates, say, 6 players a year, on average, 60 teams, 360 spots available in theory every year in Division 1 hockey. Now you think about all the players in Boston, where I am, all the young players in Toronto, where I'm from, the rest of Canada, the rest of the United States, California, and some non-traditional hockey markets are starting to really emerge, as well as producing a lot of good players. And then more and more every year, more and more European players are coming over to college hockey. And the thing is there's, even though you might think there's 360 spots, in reality, if you're not a top end NHL prospect, you can discount probably 15 teams. You just cut off a quarter of those spots if you're not going to be a player that has a chance at the NHL. So I'm talking about the very best teams, right? It's unrealistic. And then if you're not really, really smart, great grades and marks in school, you can now eliminate probably another 15. Your Harvards, your Yales, right? The schools that you probably hear about because they're in the movies, right? The high-end academic schools. So now there's half of that. So, maybe there's 130 spots available for all of these players. So, okay, get really good. Can you be an NHL prospect? That would help, right? And can you be really smart? Can you work really, really hard in school so that you can actually be accepted to some of these higher end schools? The better you do in school, the more options you will have available to you in the NCAA for playing sports. So my whole point in telling you that is a big reason why Division 3 is a really high level of hockey, because there's just not enough spots in Division 1 for the amount of players that are good enough to play Division 1. And on our team, we actually have a number of players that played Division 1. It didn't quite work out there for them, and now they've transferred and they're playing for us. So it's a high level of hockey. Our players from the Division 3 level who are good and want to keep playing can play professional hockey in leagues like the ECHL, which is the third level of pro hockey. It's NHL, American Hockey League, then the ECHL. The very best will get opportunities to play in the American Hockey League. And then we've got players that will go and play in Europe in different leagues, some of them in the UK. Division 2 is below Division 3 in terms of quality of play. There are some very good Division 2 teams, don't get me wrong, but the reason is that there aren't very many. I think there's only about 6 teams in Division 2 hockey, so they don't have a national championship to play for. So therefore, the best players that don't play Division 1 usually decide they want to play Division 3 because it's a bigger league, there's a national championship, and it's operated slightly differently. And then there's the fourth level, which is club hockey, which is not NCAA, it's ACHA. It's club hockey, so it's not considered a varsity sport. But some of these club hockey options are outstanding. And they're in beautiful places like Florida, Arizona, California, and the facilities are amazing. They get great crowds, they're treated top notch, and it's an amazing experience. So that's another option that I would seriously encourage anybody to look into as well. So that's the basic structure of how the levels work. The other major consideration that every player has to think about is the financial situation. There are 3 ways to reduce the cost of a U.S. education. And I don't know what it costs to go to university in Scotland, but in the United States, it's crazy expensive. So you want to do everything you can to reduce the cost. There's 3 ways. The first is an athletic scholarship. What that means is that the coach of your sport that's recruiting you thinks that you're so good, he wants you so much that he's going to offer you a scholarship based on your ability as a player. The only teams that can do that are Division 1 teams. Division 3, Division 2, and club sports cannot offer you a scholarship based on how good you are at your sport. Now, there's 2 other ways to reduce the cost. One is financial aid. So that is where the families, the parents of the student, will fill out paperwork. And the school will evaluate how much money they think they can afford. And then they will, depending on the school, will then offer some financial assistance to offset the cost. Some schools, like a Harvard, for instance, if you get accepted to Harvard and you do your financial paperwork and they think that all you could afford is $1,000 a year to go to Harvard, that's all you have to pay. Harvard, they meet your need 100%. But then there's a lot of other places that won't meet it to that extent, but they will support you financially through the financial aid process. The third way is the academic scholarships. So there are a lot of schools like ours that will give you scholarships based on your grades. So what were your marks in high school? There are some standardized tests that some schools look at. You may have heard of the SAT or the ACT, and they will look at these things and they will offer you, okay, like at our school, for example, the tuition is like $40,000. Our highest scholarship is $30,000. So we could significantly reduce the cost for you depending on how well you've done financially. So those are the 3 ways, or sorry, how well you've done academically. Those are the 3 ways. So as a player, you don't have any control over if a coach is going to give you a scholarship. You can get as good as you can. That's what you can focus on. How good can I become as a player? You have no control of the financial aid because that has to do with your family, your parents. But you have direct control over how much you focus and care about your academics, what you're doing in school. So there's way more money to be given out with academic scholarships than in any of the other 2 options. So keep that in mind when you're going to school. I'm going to skip this one and just focus on life experience. What I know from speaking to the guys on my team, 30% are from different countries across Europe. the big thing is you can come over here and combine academics with hockey. You can study at a school, get your education, and compete at a high level in your sport for your school. And that's an opportunity that's just not available in Europe for hockey players. There's an adventure to it, right? And discover the world. Like, I have so much respect for the players that come over here, especially the ones who don't speak English, and they have to study in English and survive and learn. But to come over to Boston and experience this country and experience something different, it opens up your eyes, it opens up the way you think. You have a better understanding of the world, and you never know what the opportunities are. You know, maybe you stay and work. You could be like what happened to me is I met a girl and I married her, and now I'm still in this country. So that's a possibility. You never know. But I'm going to show you two quick things to give you a sense of what first of all, what campus life is like.
TJ, have you got audio there?
Sorry?
Do you have audio? Is there audio in this?
It's just like a music. It's not that important. Is there a way for me to?
We can't hear it. There's a wee box when you're sharing. You need to tick for audio to come through down the bottom. See if you stop sharing.
If I stop sharing?
Yeah, stop sharing, right?
Okay. Oh, stop share. Okay.
Right. Go back and hit share screen. But
okay.
then down the bottom left there's a wee tick box that says
gotcha. Share sound.
Share sound, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So that's campus. And what's beautiful about our campus, or what's so great about our school in particular, is the campus is beautiful, and you saw the scenery with the trees, but we're only 7 miles to downtown Boston. So it's really the best of both worlds, in the sense that you have that campus, that community, that beautiful feel, but then you also have the access to the city and everything that comes with it. And then I'm just going to show you a little bit about what the hockey life might look like. Oh, maybe not. I'm going to do it this way. So you could go to curryathletics.com. That's a great way to learn about our school. And you could go to facilities, and you can come to the Canton Ice House. This is the name of our rink. And I'll first just scroll through some photos so you can see this is just the outside of the building. But the fun stuff is, so here's our dressing room. So a few different pictures of it. So we're fortunate to have a very nice setup. This is an area where you come in and you take off your street clothes, and then you'll put on your underclothes. Here, the slang term we use is gitch. I don't know if that's a word you're familiar with, but whatever you wear underneath your hockey equipment, that we refer to that as gitch. So you come in here and you take off your street clothes and put on your gitch. This is our athletic training room. So hopefully you're not injured, but if you are, this is where you would go. But this is also where you go to prepare if you have to get taped or minor things physically you have to take care of. Well, we've got hot tub, cold tub, and we can get taken care of. This is like a video room for small group and individual video sessions. So a few of our players. This is what it looks like on game day. We also have virtual golf in our rink too, which is pretty cool. There's our arena on a game day. The meeting rooms and some different things, about our facility. And I will just show you so you get a sense of, what does a game look like? And it's just some highlights of one game where we played. It's just our goal.
The left corner, Trujillo, out to Solani, scores! Out to Solani, top shelf where Mama hides the cookie. Good save by Catola. Alex Otterbeck in alone. Alex!
Good way to get the
What a save by Catola!
Great play by Billy Vizzo. Vizzo finds Victor Jansen over to
Here comes Nick Curran! Scores! Billy! It's Billy Vizzo!
Vizzo show here at the Canton Ice House. There we go, Billy.
My goodness gracious, for everything holy on planet Earth.
McGill Diaz over to Mick Curran. Mick Curran over to Victor Jansen. Victor Jansen
Alex
finds
Otterbeck at two, Solani wins it. Joe Phelan, 5-on-3 for 40. Vizzo! Phelan! Vizzo! Score! Colonels. Curry wins the draw. Scores!
Henderson, and that is
So I'm assuming you could hear our announcers. They're quite
Pretty lively, huh?
yeah, they're pretty excited.
Enthusiastic.
But yeah, so that gives you I think hopefully a good overview of some things to be thinking about in terms of how the system works, the levels, the money, and then what a campus might look like and feel like, and then an example of the hockey. So with that being said, Stephen, I'm open to taking this conversation in any direction that it might go from here. However, I can be, of service.
Like we pre-warned you, it probably will go in every direction. But no, really interesting actually. Really interesting to find a little bit about Curry College and about NCAA College as well. Really, and I've always wondered why it went Division 1, Division 3. And then I knew there was a Division 2 of some sort, but I didn't really know anything about it or what it was. It's quite a strange setup, but now you've explained it, it makes a little bit more sense.
Right.
Barry, Martin, you guys got any questions to fire at TJ? Guys, kids on the call, any questions? Sort of same rules, guys. If you stick them in the chat box, TJ's happy to answer anything you guys have got.
TG, I've got one. TG, obviously the guys at college are doing education and hockey. So what is the kind of normal day in the life of a hockey player at Curry College look like, timing wise?
Sure, great question. We happen to practice in the morning, so it's right around 9 a.m. in the morning. So our guys will wake up. They come, first thing they do is they come to the rink. There's ice time before practice and after practice if they want to get out there and do some extra stuff. And so we practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the mornings. And then after that, the rest of their day, they're in school. Now, some teams will practice in the afternoon, but basically, you know, the traditional model would be you're going to practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're going to go to school. There's 15 hours of class per week, which really isn't that much. But then you have homework and projects and things like that that you have to work on in your own time. There will also be some like weightlifting involved a couple of times a week as well in that schedule. And then on Friday and Saturday is game day. So you'll play a game on Friday and a game on Saturday. And then Sunday will be a day off where there's nothing. It's just personal day.
How many games would you play in an average season? I know this season's been anything but normal. So on a normal regular season, how many games would you guys play?
Yeah, so in Division 3, they cap it. We play 25 regular season games plus 2 exhibition games at the beginning, and then playoffs on top of that. So depending on how far you go, Division 1 they play more. I think it's 33. So you know, when you compare it to some other levels, we don't play that many games, but we practice a lot. But in terms of development, it's a great model for development because it's a regimented schedule. You have 4 practices every week. You have opportunity to get your weightlifting in. You play your 2 games, and it allows you to manage your academics, your studies as well.
And for the sorry, Kenny, I'm stealing your thunder here. For your players, do they get a little bit of luxury where they get to work some of their classes around hockey, or do they just have to find a way to make it work?
So one of the things that's really good about most schools in the United States is the amount of support that athletes will get. So at our school, you just identify yourself as a hockey player, and then every student gets an academic advisor, and that person helps them plan their schedule and make sure they're taking the right courses at the right time so that they can graduate at the right time in their major. So that person would then work with the student to make sure that, like for our guys, 11:30 in the morning is the earliest class that they would ever take. So it does work hand in hand really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
TJ, what happens? Say you sign a guy and he's getting an academic scholarship and he's playing hockey, and he gets injured. He's got a long-term injury. He's going to be out for the year. What does he just still do his academics, and you just wait a year till he comes back, or what happens with that?
Well, nothing will happen to his scholarship because that's actually provided through the school, right? It has nothing to do with his, involvement with the hockey team.
Yeah.
So the scholarship stays the same, no problems there. And then depending on the injury, you know, we have our athletic trainers and sports medicine department that's specific to our athletics department. So all of our athletes, so we will work and, just work with them to rehabilitate and get ready to be back playing as quickly and safely as possible.
Yeah. I think I've seen it in other colleges as well. I was looking at some stuff. They get a lot of their athletes in like 2 weeks prior to the academic season, starting to do a lot of off-ice work and fitness work. Do you do that?
Well, our official season doesn't start until October. So we don't have to come back early because we start school usually the last week of August. So we have about usually 5 or 6 weeks where our players are working out and skating before like our official season would start. So we have lots of time for that.
Yeah.
But at the Division 1 level, it is quite common that they will have, their players come earlier or even stay the whole summer. And then they work out with their strength coach on campus. They skate together all summer, and they usually take a course or 2 throughout the summertime. The big difference is a lot of the Division 1 players are on scholarship. So you have a lot more say over what that person does because you're paying for their school. Whereas with us, our guys have to go home and they have to have summer jobs and they have to make money and train. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Barry, any questions?
Yeah, I was just waiting on you downloading all yours. That was all.
Oh, so listen, Lynchy stole them all. Lynchy just jumped right in.
No, I was going to say I've got your roster open here. So from last season, and I was just wondering. So just looking at the flags, mainly pretty good hockey nations that your international players are coming from. What sort of level of scouting or selection process do you go through when you're selecting your players that you're going to take for the year?
Sure. What's happening now is more and more European players are coming over to the United States to play junior hockey, so under 20 hockey. So a lot of them are already playing here, so I get to see them firsthand in person. And then I would evaluate them just like I evaluate any player, and then we would start communicating, and that's where the recruiting begins, where I try to convince them that once I believe that they're the right player and right person, then I'm trying to recruit them. I'm trying to get them to come to my school. And then sometimes we have had some players that have come directly from Europe, and in those cases you're watching on video or contacts people in Europe that who know these players. There are advisors or agents, but they're not supposed to be called agents when it comes to the NCAA. So the word advisor comes up. So there are people in different, you get to know them, you build relationships that have players that are trying to come over here, and you get leads and you follow up on them.
Yeah. That'll be advisor, just like the guy off that Netflix documentary that's on just now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, buying your way in. Yeah,
the side door. The other one, just switching up a little bit. I notice you've got Timo Solani's son on your roster. Has Timo been down to practice or down to watch games?
I haven't even met Timo yet.
No.
Believe it or not, he came to one game. It was a playoff game. I didn't get a chance to see him. And he came earlier in the year. I was away on a recruiting trip. Our season hadn't started, and I got a text message from my boss, our athletic director, and it was a picture. And it was of Timo Solani playing tennis with our tennis coach. So not only did I miss him, he came by, he got involved and played some tennis. So it was pretty funny, I guess.
Stephen, have you got any more questions, or are we going to
No, I think it's time to open it up to the floor. Whose turn is it to read them tonight?
Sorry, I've got one more question. TJ, your director of sport, is that Eruzione? Is he anything to do with the Miracle Eruzione?
That's Michael Eruzioni's brother. Yep. So Vinny Eruzione is my boss, and his brother is Mike Eruzione, who scored the Miracle on Ice goal. Yeah.
That's pretty connected then.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I know a 60-year-old drunk guy in Coatbridge.
Yeah, he looked like he had rollerblades on.
He was standing like a hockey stick, but it's just from carrying carrier bags so much. Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Right, who did the questions on Wednesday again?
Me.
Oh, you
did. I did last Friday. So, Mr. King,
right,
over to you.
Here we go. Okay. Cooper Colley, you just asked a bunch of letters, so I'm obviously going to bypass that. Aidan Patterson, how many times a week do you guys train? So I think we've kind of covered that, TJ, which is 4 times a week. Is that right, TJ? That's correct?
Yeah, you'll have 4 practices a week, plus 2 games, plus some off-ice strength and conditioning as well, depending on the week, depending on the team, anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 days, or 4. So there's days where you definitely will practice and work out off the ice as well.
Do you do off ice kind of speed work as well, or is it just strength and conditioning?
Yeah. Depending on the time of year and what our needs are, I'm sort of lumping that all into one. Anything off the ice. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that? Sorry, I was just going to ask. Does that include recovery sessions or that? Stretching and all that?
Yeah, that's why I went to one. I went 1, 2, 3, 4. Because when you start counting, if you count those, then yeah, it's every day.
Yeah.
There's a big emphasis on recovery and mobility and maintenance. And as the season goes on, it's less of the weights and more of the recovery stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cooper wants to know: are you the ice coach or the guy that screams to the bench? I think I know the answer from that, considering you're the head coach.
Well,
You're the
I
guy.
would say both, but I don't scream very much. To be honest, that's not really my style. I don't, maybe once a year I'll scream. It's
Yeah.
funny. Our players have they have a fine jar, so it's a jar. So they have different rules within the team that if you break the rule, they fine each other. And in our level, it's little money, right? It's like $1 or $5, and you got to put the money in the jar. So we put in a rule that if you use the F word, right, the swear word that starts with F, in a negative way, we distinguished it. You could say it in a positive way, but if you said it in a negative way, it was a fine. So there was one day that it was $1, and I had one outburst where I had to pay a pretty good fine there to the boys. But usually I don't. That's not really my style. But to answer the question, I'm the guy standing on the bench, and I'm also on the ice in practice.
Yep. Okay. From Crawford Murray, he wants to know who's the best player to come through Curry College. It's a hard question. It's always going to be a hard question. Who's the best player?
Yeah, that's a hard question, because how do you evaluate that? I mean, we've had some players in the past, going back 15, 20 years ago that had a so many points and were so good, but maybe did not play any professional hockey. And then we've had other guys that did pretty good, but, had more lengthy professional careers. So, how are you going to, evaluate that? I think, Ryan Barlock was a defenseman who got a lot of points here, and he went to an American Hockey League training camp and played in the ECHL and played in Europe. Tyler Van Cleef, as I mentioned, who, played in Nottingham, and that's a high level of hockey. So and he had a pretty good lengthy pro career. And so I don't know. I don't know who it is, and if I even said the name, you're not going to recognize him. So
Yeah. Okay. So I got a question from Kean Shevlin, who's currently playing in Triple A in Massachusetts. I think it's junior. Is it under 16 when she's playing? I'm not sure what.
Michigan.
Michigan. He wants to know what's the best path to get into a college hockey program. He's a Scottish kid, and he's in Massachusetts right now playing Triple A.
Oh, so Kean is in Michigan right now? Is that right?
Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Cool.
He's been there since September, October time. So once he was allowed to travel across there.
What do you know? What team?
Kean, turn your mic on.
Tell us what team you're on.
Victory Honda, AAA.
Who, Kean?
Victory Honda. Do you know Brian Burke?
No, I don't recognize the name.
I think he coached, I think, the 18U team. So you might know him soon. Well, Victory Honda is one of the more well-known organizations for sure, and it's the highest level of that age group. So I think you're in the right place right now, and if you can have some success at that level, you're going to get the exposure to college coaches. College coaches will be watching that level. This year's a little different because the Division I coaches have not actually been allowed to go out and recruit in person. The NCAA has banned that because of COVID. But somehow they said the Division III coaches are allowed. So I don't know how these rules are so strange. But yeah, I think it's if you're playing there, it's develop, do the best you can, be patient. Also understand that hockey is unique in that a lot of times guys are 20 or 21 years old before they get to play college hockey, where the average, like the typical age of going to university is right after you finish high school. So like 18 years old or 19, right? And hockey players often will play junior hockey under 20 for a couple of years prior to going to play college hockey. So it's not a sprint. It is more of a marathon, and to just stick with it. And the most important thing is to develop and become as good a player as you can and do as well as you can in school.
Okay. Next question is going to require a whiteboard and a pen, TJ. So Finlay Sawyers, who plays in our under-11 team at Lanarkshire, he wants to know what drills you do at Curry College.
You know what? The best thing would probably my YouTube channel and the Curry Hockey YouTube channel. I don't know. Martin, do you have an email list for everybody that's here?
Yeah, we can get that out. I think we'll get that out, TJ. That's not an issue. I've got the YouTube channel and the website and the podcast and all the other stuff, Twitter and stuff like that. So we can get that out to everyone, TJ. I think Finlay's looking to replace me as head coach at Lanarkshire. So no, I'm up for the fight, Finlay. I'm up for the fight. So
yeah, no, I love the question. You know, it's just that's hours on its own. I'd love to dive in, but yeah, I have a lot of examples, as you know, Martin.
Yeah. But maybe we dive in at some point, TJ.
Maybe I'll come back and we could do some drills. Yeah.
Question from Matt. I think from Harris actually. What's the best moment you have experienced as Curry College coach? What's your finest moment?
I took our team to Europe last year, our whole team. We played some pro teams in the Erste Liga. So we went to Budapest, we went to Bratislava, and we went to Vienna. And that trip was unbelievable. And especially for our team, because so many Europeans on our team that their families got to come see them play a hockey game in Europe. And for our Americans and Canadians to be able to experience Europe, many of them had never done it before. The thing about Boston, like we have some Boston guys, people from Boston typically have never left Boston. so to go and see some things like that was really special. It had nothing to do with wins or losses. It was just an amazing experience. And another one was this year. We had a player diagnosed with cancer last year, and he missed all season. And he beat it and came back and actually somehow became a better hockey player and played this year, and that was amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from Raymond Simpson: how much do your players cross over to other sports on the campus?
A little bit. It's really hard to do because it's a huge commitment, and it works if you play a sport that happens after hockey. Yeah. So like when the hockey season's over, then you can start playing the other sport. And so the coach of that team has to also be okay with that you're going to be late because they'll start before you can join them.
Yeah.
And but it has happened. We have one player that's right now playing field lacrosse. So that's a sport that we have crossover. Baseball is a possibility. Soccer is one that is in the fall. They actually play before our season. And one year I said, okay, yeah, you can play. Because for me, actually, I quite like the idea.
Yeah.
And I want guys to do that. But this player was the backup goalie on our soccer team. And the last game of the season, he got put into action and he tore his MCL in his knee. He missed our whole first semester. So I decided at that point that it has to be a sport that plays after the hockey season.
Yeah. Okay. A quick question from CJ. This is a simple one. When you played, what position did you play?
I was a defenseman.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Next question from Raymond. Do you cater for low-level players who may be attending an academic program but still plays and is showing signs of skill? Would you try and get them to step up to the team? So would you take a project kind of player?
There's not a lot of room, honestly, for that on our team. but that's where the club hockey comes in really nice. When I talked about the different levels, there's also different levels of club hockey. Some of the club hockey is really, really good, and then some is just a little bit more, just sort of more fun and recreation. So depending on how good you are, and in schools that have a club hockey team, that's a great way to keep playing and be involved with other people in your school, still have the camaraderie and the spirit to represent your school and to keep playing the game. Is an awesome thing.
Yeah. Okay. How big is the roster? How big is your roster, TJ?
It varies every year, but typically, like, my perfect scenario would be to have 8 defensemen, 15 forwards, and we carry 3 goalies.
Yeah.
And so we would dress usually, 6D, 12 forwards. Plus we allowed to dress 1 extra. So
Yeah.
So if everybody was healthy,
Yeah.
then we will have 4 players that are healthy and not playing in the game.
The healthy scratches. Yeah. And
another question along the same lines of that is, how many players would try out for your team at the start of the season? And for the ones that don't make it, is there any other option for them?
Currently at our school, no, but it looks like we're gonna add a club hockey team. So that's where that's a really good thing, so that they can keep playing. But we actually don't get that many players trying out because our guys skate for about 6 weeks before our tryouts would happen. Usually those guys that want to try out, they figure out if it's realistic or not by playing with the rest of the guys for a while. And for the most part, they're they figure out that it's probably not going to work out. We do have tryouts. It's very rare that somebody that I don't know about is going to make the team, because of how much work and effort goes into recruiting and building the team.
So when you, for instance, if a freshman's a first year player, right?
Correct.
So if a freshman doesn't make the team, but would they still stand a chance of getting picked up on the 2nd or 3rd or 4th year?
Well, if I recruited them, they made the team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
If I've asked them to come, they're on the team. That doesn't mean they're going to play. It just means they're on the team, and then they have to earn their ice time. Is it possible that they could go, not make the team as a freshman and try out? It is in theory possible. I just think it gets even more difficult because where have you played? You might have taken the whole year off. So if you didn't make it the first year and then you didn't play for a year, what are the chances that it's going to work out for you the next year? It's probably unlikely.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So just on that same kind of vein there, TJ, getting onto the team list, the game sheet, is that earned, or do you rotate, or is it just purely coaching, just earned onto the team?
Yeah. So that's just based on the players that I think are going to help us win the game play, and so it's not like an equal rotation thing.
Yeah.
It's based on merit. So what ends up happening is you have some guys that are playing a lot and some guys that are playing not a lot.
Some guys in and out at the bottom end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a good kind of coaching question here from Matt. Do you ever struggle to raise the compete level in the team? How do you overcome this? What kind of methods do you use? Use peer group pressure? What methods do you use to raise the compete level in the team?
Well, I think as a coach, you're always searching for that high compete level. And I think there's a few things you can do. One is actually just running an effective practice and holding them accountable to that. But some things that you can do, I think when you play games, like small-sided games, where you have to compete against your teammates, that automatically raises the level of competition because you want to win, you want to beat that person. Keeping score helps. We'll have like we theme our days. So Tuesday is called Competition Tuesday. So it's always purple versus white. And every drill we do or game we do, we keep score, and it's purple team versus the white team for the whole day. So that's something we would do. And, it's sometimes it's just you demand it. And if you're not getting it, then you have to find ways to hold accountable. But I can't say that's a huge issue with us. I mean, I think some of it's cultural too. I mean, a lot of these guys have grown up playing a certain way. But I will say this, we had a Swedish player who came directly from Sweden. He was an assistant captain this year. But his first year, he had a big problem with, he thought the drill was over when maybe I didn't think the drill was over. So there was a discrepancy between how he viewed the drill and how I viewed the drill. So I had to teach. I had to say, no, like, I'm looking for second efforts. The puck is laying right there. Don't just go skate back into the line. Like, go get that puck and put it in the net, right? So sometimes there's teaching as well, for sure.
Expectations, things like that as well.
Yeah.
See that a lot. Okay, next question is, do you have a female hockey program?
We do, and actually very exciting. It's their first year next year. The first year. So our women's hockey coach has been working very hard recruiting her team, and we're very excited to have them start playing games.
Yeah, okay. Next question is, what's the youngest age player at college? From Rory McAllister.
Well, the requirement is you have to be accepted to the school. So as long as you've graduated high school and met the requirements for going to school at our college, then you could play on the team. But typically you're looking at, somebody who is the youngest would be like you're 18, or maybe you're 17, but you're turning 18 before January 1st. That's typically the youngest, but that's very young. And in hockey, that's rare. Like, normally the hockey players at Division 1 or 3 are usually entering the hockey team closer to 19 or 20 or even 21 years old.
Yeah.
But you could come, like a player that I coached at a different school was the youngest player in college hockey his freshman year, and he was 17 years old. He didn't turn 18 until December. But now he played in the NHL. So the ones that do come in at that age are guys that are likely or are legitimate NHL prospects. So they're trying to get to college as soon as possible so that they can leave as soon as possible and go make money.
Yeah. Question from Brody. What is the goal of the college program? Is it to make you a professional hockey player or to make you academic?
Our goal is to prepare.
That's a good question.
It's a great question. Our goal is to prepare our young men for the rest of their life. Set them up so that they can be successful, whether they are going to play more hockey, or they're going to go to more school, maybe graduate school, or if they're going to go work. But we want them to be great friends, husbands, fathers, and citizens and community members. And for some of them, that's pro hockey. After some of them, it's something else. So whatever it might be, we want to help them be ready for those challenges.
Yeah,
And that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I was going to say just off the back of that. So, what are you as the head coach of Curry College judged on then? Is it results, or is it academic results, or is it good people coming out the other end? Or
all of those things. Honestly, I have an annual evaluation, and academics is one of the things that I'm evaluated. So somebody said to me last night, I was on a webinar, and they said, like, being a college coach is crazy because you've chosen a profession where you're counting on the performance of 18 to 23-year-old men for your job. So yeah, like we have to have guys that are doing well in school. I'm also evaluated on community involvement, community service, and how our guys are behaving and giving back. And I'm evaluated on the performance of our team.
Okay, good. Next question is about goalies. it's from Ian Kerry. He's asking if you've got three netminders, and it's probably similar to your roster. Do you rotate the three, or do you pick it on merit?
Yeah, it kind of depends year to year what you have. And sometimes there's years where one player is clearly the best goalie, so he's going to play the most games. I think the model that I'm most comfortable with is having two goalies that are really competing to try to play every game, and having a third goalie who is more aware of his role as being the third goalie, and he's there to be, a great practice goaltender and ready to go in an emergency. And when we get a chance to put him in a game, we will, but that's not a guarantee. And that because we, as I mentioned earlier, we don't play very many games, 25 to 35 games in a year. There's not a lot of free minutes to give out. So to have three goalies that are all trying to legitimately compete to be a starting goalie, there's just not enough games to go around.
Yeah, it's every game's important. There's not really all points in every game. Yeah, you win every game. Okay. Next question from Harris. What kind of drills do you do off ice to help leg strength? What's your off ice conditioning program like? It's quite a big question as well.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think depending on your age, it's gonna, the answer might be different. I think, being active in general off the ice is good, and doing sports other than hockey is good because you're going to bring balance to your body. Like when you skate, you get so, that's why a lot of hockey players have big bums and big quads because of skating. And so, doing some things off the ice to bring balance to your body. So running and jumping and doing that, being athletic in general. But then, things like squats and lunges and, every variation that you see there. But, there was a time when I was a personal trainer and I was up on all of this stuff, but today I can't say I'm the expert in that area.
Okay, Cooper, I think you just testing your keyboard there. I'm not sure. There's just a bunch of numbers and QWERTY kicking about there. I'll go on to Mac. So Max, it's quite a good question from a coaching perspective there, TJ. Who do you draw on? Have you got a coaching mentor? Who do you draw on for fresh ideas to stay ahead of the game as well? What do you do for that?
Yeah. Well, I think, coaching mentors are important. Coaching friendships are equally as important, where sometimes, you in a relationship where sometimes you're the mentor and sometimes you're the mentee. And I've changed, so I'm a part of some coaching groups of guys, and females. We meet and we talk about different things and share ideas. And then you have your friends that you develop along the way that you talk to, and other coaches that I've worked with, either work for them or my assistant coaches. So I think your network in coaching is really important for one, fresh ideas and staying on the cutting edge of what you're doing, but also for the support, because coaching's hard. And I just read a book called The Tough Stuff, 7 Hard Truths About Being a Head Coach, and it's by an Australian guy who lives in Toronto. And the first chapter is titled "Everybody Thinks You're an Idiot." So you need the support of other coaches. They're the ones that know what you're going through.
Yeah. Have you got any in particular, TJ? Any? If do you talk to any kind of NHL, AHL type coaches?
Yeah. A guy that I talk to a lot. He actually, it's funny how things go. The first assistant coach I ever had, his name is Ryan Warsofsky. He's now one of the most successful head coaches in the American Hockey League. He coaches Chicago right now. Wow. And he went from being my assistant at Curry College to being a head coach in the American Hockey League in 7 years. And quite an amazing climb up the ranks. So he's somebody who certainly, like here's the reality, right? Like innovation is a lot of times starting at the top, the NHL. And, I talked last on Wednesday about the defenseman skating, angling forwards.
Yeah.
That started in the NHL like 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe even a little more. And we're still at our level just implementing and teaching it and try and get our defensemen to do it. So the reality is, at that level, the NHL, they have the most coaches, the most knowledge, the most access to resources, whether that be analytics and video and teams of people. And their only job is hockey. So they're coming up with these things. And then, so yeah, you want to tap into that. You have to have relationships with that. But I think there's also other ways to draw inspiration. Like I was watching basketball the other day and I was looking at how they run the offense and thinking about, well, how can maybe I apply this to hockey, and looking at outside of other sports, podcasts, books, YouTube, right? Like there's a lot of opportunities to look and see things differently. I love talking to coaches in other countries because their experiences are different. How they see things are different. You can always pick up some things. And you always have something to offer as well, because, and I just think it's really cool to connect with people in other parts of the world over something that you both share.
Yeah, we've got a lot of soccer heroes, you know, and we sort of see a lot of football practices and things and that because football is quite advanced here. So there's a lot of things we've seen there that are quite good. I missed a question from Joe. How important is schooling in Curry College?
It's very important for us. We make an emphasis about this, and our players really care about it. And it's at the end of the day, the hockey is fun and important and great, but really, you're getting an education that's going to set you up for the rest of your life. So it's both. They're the same. Hockey and school are equal, and if you had to pick one over the other, you got to go with school.
We've got a saying here that school is important, but hockey's importanter.
Yeah, that's
TJ,
ironic.
TJ, what happens to a player on your team if he's fallen behind in school?
Well, from time to time that happens. And
so is there any sort of rules, whether it be called the college rules or your own personal rules, where if a kid's fallen behind in school, he has to stop playing hockey or anything like that? Or I don't imagine it's just brushed under the carpet or anything like that. But there must be instances where there's a player not making his grades or passing his tests or whatever. What's the scenario there?
Yeah, so I can't say it's a one size fits all where it'd be the same for every person, right? But so you want to treat everybody with the support that's necessary or appropriate for their situation. But you know, a couple of things, like if you fall below a certain grade level, then you're in mandatory study hall. That's the first thing. So you have to go spend 3 hours a week in study hall, where you or you could say like you have to go see your tutor, and then there's tutors available that can help you. We have academic success coordinators that their job is to help students that are falling behind or struggling. And so you set them up with those resources, you create a plan. If their grades fall to another level where, you know, there is a point where if your grades fall below this point, then you're actually not even allowed to play sports. It's a NCAA rule. So you have to maintain a certain level in your academics to stay eligible to play. And then every program is going to be a little bit different with how they operate, but like we have some standards with how we do things. And it's one thing if you're doing poorly in school, but you're trying your best and maybe, you know, like you're giving it everything you got, but this is what you're capable of. So, okay, that's one thing. But if you're just not, you know, you're not going to class, or you're not handing things in, or you're just not doing things the right way, well, then we can't have that. And we had a player miss the entire first semester. I told him he wasn't allowed to practice with us anymore until he got his academics squared away.
Love how you put on your serious voice for that
Yeah.
answer there.
that kid was in trouble. He was in the doghouse, him.
Yeah.
And I think that's us for questions.
I was just going to say, so this is more of a scenario, but is there a frustration from your side when you see a young man coming out at 23, 24-year-old at the end of his college journey with so much potential as a hockey player, and you think he could be going that ECHL level or whatever, and that's him done. He just walks away and goes into business, goes into, real life, so to speak. Just to back that up, I remember we played against a Canadian university team years ago, and like they all were amazing and way better than us. And we've kind of followed, just through Hockey DB or whatever, to see where they've went to, and none of them play anymore. They all just went off into real life and disappeared.
Yeah. I think what happens a lot of times is if you asked all of our first year players, do they want to play pro hockey? Almost all of them will say yes. But by the time they're in their fourth year, their priorities start to change. They start to think about, they mature, they get older, they start to think about the rest of their life and what they might want to do. And then there's some that are still very keen to keep playing hockey. So no, I don't think that frustrates me if I think somebody's really good enough to go play and he's decided not to. What frustrates me is the one who has great potential at Curry and doesn't live up to it because he's unable to take care of his schoolwork, for one, or some other situation, right, where they're just not fulfilling what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of lazy trainers here sometimes. Kids need to get their fingers out sometimes. All ahead of you. Yeah, and all right, there's one more question come in. Let's Cooper Colley. If you graduate, do you get to still play for Curry ice hockey? Which I don't think that's the case.
No, once you graduate, you have to move on and you can't play for the school anymore.
Yeah. Aidan, last question then. Are there any players from your team who have played in the EIHL, which is the elite league, the UK league?
Yeah, Tyler Van Cleef has played there. He didn't survive the whole season, but he was there for a while.
Is it Nottingham?
Yeah.
I can't remember. When was that? TJ, was that recently?
I want to say maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
You can look him up. I will put his name.
Yeah. I don't go to a lot of games. I don't watch a lot of those games, so I don't really know. But yeah, Barry will look up the stats now. Barry's the stats man. All right, guys.
1 minute.
1 second. That's us done.
That was great. That was really, really insightful. We've had a lot of people on Friday Night Lives and a lot of coaching webinars where we've had a lot of elite league hockey players that have talked about their journeys. We've had a few coaches from other leagues and other countries that have spoken about their thoughts on hockey and their experiences in hockey. But that's the first time we've had anybody from NCAA on. It was really, really insightful as to what college hockey can offer and what college in North America can offer as well. TJ, on behalf of everybody in Scottish Ice Hockey, thank you very much for spending tonight with us and Wednesday. Both great nights as far as I was concerned. I think everybody's learned something. The coaches on Wednesday night and the kids and some of the adults that tuned in tonight. It's been great to have you here. I think we'll definitely invite you back in some capacity in the next few weeks or months if you're happy to do so. And yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciated you spending a couple of afternoons for you, evenings for us. But really appreciate you giving up your time to speak to the coaches and players in Scottish Ice Hockey.
Well, that's very nice of you to say, and I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it myself as well. I'm certainly happy to come back and hang out with my new Scottish buddies and talk some more hockey. So let's stay in touch. And anybody else, I noticed I made some new Twitter friends from Scotland recently, last couple of days, which is awesome. Stay in touch. I think maybe Martin could send out the website or whatever, and if you want to look up there. But yeah, if there's anything I can do for anybody, I'm happy to just reach out and we'll talk about it, and wish everybody good luck and exciting for the boys. Get back on the ice soon. That's great stuff.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to that, and I think I think there'll be a lot of people in Scottish ice hockey following Curry College now as well.
Yeah.
All right. That's
Guys,
awesome.
I would recommend just, if you listen to podcasts, just tune into TJ's podcast. It's really worthwhile. A lot of great content, a lot of great speakers on there. So it's really good.
Thank you.
So I think this is as good a time as any to wrap up tonight's edition of Friday Night Live. Everybody, thanks very much for tuning in. And we'll see you all next week. The announcements will be on the SIH website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram in the next 2 or 3 days about who we've got lined up for next week. It's going to be very interesting, and we'll see you all again soon. Okay?